I'm in New Orleans. I'm walking towards the Mississippi River. It's a bit out, so we'll get there in a second, but I wanted to show you on the ground here. They call these catch basins in New Orleans. So they're basically part of the stormwater drainage. And then you have drains that go straight to the river. It's just for overflow for like when it's storming. And these are actually like, it's kind of cool because right here you can see how deep they are, which normally you only see the top part. And also I love that they've just like graded it in with old oyster shells because when in New Orleans, why not? New Orleans just has so much culture and life and vibrancy. Look, I'm wearing Mardi Gras beads. These actually have little shamrocks on them. I think we're in Chapatulas, which is the weirdest named street in the US. When I first moved here, I didn't know how to pronounce it at all because it starts with a T and it's called Chapatulas. So yeah, there's actually a beer that I've been meaning to try, which is called Hopatulas, and I think it's like a hoppy IPA beer. So I've been meaning to try that. But yeah, it's this big road where it's probably loud next to the Mississippi River. So I found my way to the mighty Mississippi. It's a little chilly, I don't know if you can tell. But I am right near kind of where Poydras is back there, and Canal up here are down on the south side of New Orleans next to the Mississippi, which when I was living here, I would always try to run up this way, but there was enough construction and they were doing this that there wasn't a throughway. So it's kind of cool to be able to walk all the way along the Mississippi. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about the Mississippi River. I'm from St. Louis, so we also have the Mississippi River that cuts down the eastern portion of Missouri. And the Mississippi is sometimes called the Muddy Mississippi because it is so dark colored. I don't know that you'll be able to tell in the video, but it is kind of brownish. So the reason that is because there's a lot of small grain soil particles. So when you talk about soil, there's 3 different types of soil. And you got to be careful not to call it dirt or geotechs. So this is soil and not dirt. There is sand, which you'll be familiar with. It's like granules of sand. A little bit smaller is silt, which is more the fluffier dirt that you would see. And then even smaller sized particles are clay. And when the clay is in your water, it takes a long time for clay to settle out of the water. But it's about the same size as silt. It's a little smaller. So if you're not quite sure if it's silt or clay, you can mix it up in a water bottle and let it sit. The silt will filter out pretty fast, and the clay will take just a little bit longer to filter out. It would take a few hours. So in geotech lab, those are the sort of tests they do. They do it a lot more sophisticated than that to figure out what the soil content ratio, I forget the terms, but basically how much clay to silt to sand there is. And so on something like the Mississippi, where it is picking up sediment as it goes, maybe eroding some of the banks and depositing soil on the far sides of the banks, which is referred to as fluvial geomorphology, so how the rivers are changing the landscape. So it's cutting away soil. It's got currents in it, and it's pulling it up off the bottom, and it's more smaller grain, so it's more clays in there that wooded that take a little bit longer to settle out. So because of that, it ends up being a little bit dirty, a little muddy. The rivers in Texas are all very similar to that too. They have very high clay content, so they end up being a little bit dirtier. So if we're using it for drinking water or any sort of like public use for the water, you would have to do some filtration or some extra settling, put in like a settling basin or something like that, sedimentation basin, in order to let the particles filter themselves out. So you could also add some sort of chemical in order to adhere to the particles. They would call it adsorbing. It sticks to the particles, lets them flocculate together a lot faster and settle out faster. So that is something we do in both water treatment and wastewater treatment, is flocculation. So we'll have flocculation basins. Sometimes they'll put air bubbles into it and let the air bubbles move around the particles. I think that's more of a wastewater type of treatment, because the air is necessary for the what would you call it, like a decay mechanism, in order for the bacteria to eat away at the solids, which is basically what wastewater treatment is, right? It's having the bacteria go in and eat all the organic matter. They need oxygen to do that, the nitration process. So yeah, that's a little bit about water and treatment and the muddy, mighty Mississippi. So I fondly recall that from my elementary, growing up along the Mississippi, going up to like a water fountain after gym class and everyone being like, don't drink the whole Mississippi if you're taking too long at the water fountain. Everyone learning how to spell Mississippi, Mississippi. So yeah, that's the Mississippi. I'm crossing some train tracks here, but when I get to the other side of the train tracks, I'm going to show you my view up here. It's the French Quarter, so I'm at the very far side of the French Quarter. So there's only one building left that's actually a French building. The rest is all Spanish colonial architecture that came in after that fire, and it's just like so gorgeous. It reminds me of San Juan in Puerto Rico with the Spanish architecture and the little side streets and the galleries. The galleries are very New Orleans, so the galleries are all of the large balconies. You can see, maybe, this is a gallery here, the large balcony with, oops, you can't even see that, with the columns, and normally they're wrought iron over in the French Quarter. So yeah, I'm gonna go explore a little bit longer and then go into our office and have lunch with Amanda, who's one of my favorite bosses ever, and then head back to Texas. So it was nice talking with you guys.